The coffee shop encountered mysterious regular David Martinez had been working at Moonbeam Coffee for 3 months when she first appeared. Every Tuesday at exactly 3:17 p.m., a woman with striking emerald eyes and auburn hair would enter, order a double espresso with no sugar, and sit at the corner table by the window. She never stayed longer than 20 minutes, never brought a phone or laptop, and never spoke to anyone except to place her order. What made her truly mysterious wasn't her routine. Plenty of regulars had those. It was the way she seemed to study everyone in the cafe, her eyes moving with the precision of someone cataloging details. When their eyes met across the counter, David felt something electric pass between them. But she always looked away first. The first real conversation, a rainy Thursday in October, she broke her pattern. Instead of Tuesday, she came on Thursday. Instead of 3:17, it was 4:30. Instead of sitting alone, she approached the counter where David was cleaning the espresso machine. "You've been watching me," she said, her voice carrying a slight accent he couldn't place. David's heart hammered against his ribs. "I notice regular customers. It's part of good service." She smiled, and it transformed her entire face. "I'm Zara, David." He extended his hand, and when she shook it, her skin was surprisingly cold despite the warm cafe. "You work here every day except Sundays," she observed. "You're studying architecture at the community college. You drive a blue Honda with a dent on the passenger door from when you hit a shopping cart last month." David froze. "How do you know all that?" Zara's smile faltered. "I notice things too." Strange abilities. Over the next few weeks, their conversations became longer. Zara would linger after closing, helping David stack chairs and wipe tables. She had opinions about everything: books she'd never mentioned reading, places she claimed never to have visited, people she insisted she'd never met, but described in perfect detail. One evening, as David struggled with the temperamental coffee machine, Zara placed her hand on the side. The machine immediately began working perfectly. "How did you do that?" David asked. "Some people have a way with machines," she said evasively. When she walked him to his car that night, David noticed she cast no reflection in the storefront windows they passed. When he mentioned it, she laughed it off, but her eyes held a sadness that made his chest ache. They almost kissed 3 weeks later. During a particularly quiet evening shift, Zara helped David close the shop. As he turned off the last light, they found themselves standing close in the darkness, illuminated only by the streetlights filtering through the windows. "David," she whispered, reaching up to touch his face. He leaned down, drawn by something deeper than attraction. Their lips were inches apart when she suddenly stepped back, her expression shifting from longing to something that looked like fear. "I should go," she said, but she didn't move. Questions without answers. The next morning, David couldn't concentrate on anything. Zara's near kiss replayed in his mind, along with all the small impossibilities he'd been ignoring. How she knew things she shouldn't know, how machines responded to her touch, how she never seemed to age despite claiming they'd known each other for months. When she arrived at her usual time, back to the Tuesday 3:17 schedule, she seemed different, more guarded. She ordered her espresso and sat at her corner table, but kept glancing at the door as if expecting someone. David brought her coffee personally instead of calling her number. "Are you okay? You seem nervous." "I'm always nervous," she replied, wrapping her hands around the cup. "You just haven't noticed before." The revelation that evening. Zara waited until the last customer left before approaching the counter. Her hands trembled as she set down her empty cup. "David, there's something I need to tell you. Something important." He leaned forward, sensing the weight of whatever she was about to say. "I'm not who you think I am," she began. "I'm not even what you think I am." "What do you mean?" Zara took a shaky breath. "I'm part of a program. A government program that doesn't officially exist. We're called Watchers. We monitor ordinary citizens for patterns, behaviors, potential threats." David's world tilted. "You're some kind of spy." "Not a spy. Something else." She looked directly into his eyes. "I'm not entirely human, David." The impossible explanation before David could respond. Zara continued. "The program started 40 years ago. They found ways to enhance people, to give them abilities that make surveillance easier. Enhanced memory, pattern recognition, technologic interface capabilities. But the process changes you, makes you something between human and machine. She held up her hand, and David watched in amazement as her fingertips began to glow with a soft blue light. I can connect to any electronic device, read data streams, process information at superhuman speeds, but I can't turn it off. I can't stop seeing patterns, analyzing behaviors, filing reports. Reports about me. Zara's voice cracked. Every conversation we've had, every expression you've made, every time you've been kind to a difficult customer or stayed late to help a co-worker. It all goes into a file. The confession of it sank onto a stool behind the counter. So everything between us has been fake. Part of your job. No. Zara moved closer, desperation in her voice. That's just it. What I feel for you isn't in any programming. They didn't design us to form attachments. We're supposed to observe and report, nothing more. She reached across the counter, her glowing fingertips barely touching his hand. But somewhere in all the watching and analyzing, I started seeing you instead of just your patterns. I started caring about your dreams, your fears, your terrible jokes about coffee beans. Why are you telling me this now? Zara's eyes filled with tears that seemed to shimmer with the same blue light as her fingertips. Because my handlers know. They've detected anomalies in my behavior, emotional responses that weren't supposed to be possible. They're coming to retrieve me tomorrow. Retrieve you, to fix me, or decommission me if I can't be fixed. She grabbed his hands, her skin now noticeably cooler. David, after tomorrow, I won't remember any of this. I won't remember you. The Choiceth handlers Erevolth next morning. David arrived at work early, hoping Zara would come before her scheduled time. Instead, he found two people in dark suits waiting by the entrance. The woman was tall with silver hair and calculating eyes. The man looked like he could bench press a car. Mr. Martinez, the woman said as he unlocked the door. I'm Director Kane. We need to discuss Zara. David's hands shook as he turned the key. I don't know anyone named Zara. Please don't insult our intelligence. Director Kane followed him inside. Our asset has been compromised. She's formed an unauthorized attachment to you. The ultimatum as David prepared the coffee machines, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. Director Kane explained the situation with clinical detachment. Zara designation W47 was assigned to monitor this sector for signs of organized resistance. Instead, she spent 3 months obsessing over a barista who builds foam art and gives free pastries to homeless people. She cares about people, David said, finding his courage. Maybe that's not a malfunction. Caring is inefficient. The man spoke for the first time, his voice like gravel. It clouds judgment and compromises mission parameters. Director Kane checked her watch. W47 will arrive in 17 minutes. When she does, you have two choices. Help us convince her to report for reconditioning voluntarily, or we take her by force. Zara's last stand at exactly 3:17. Zara entered the cafe. She saw the handlers immediately, but walked to the counter anyway. Her chin raised defiantly. Hello. David, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'll take that double espresso. Zara, Director Kane's voice cut through the air like a blade. It's time to come home. This is home, Zara replied, not turning around. I choose to stay. The large man moved toward her, but Zara raised her hand. Every electronic device in the cafe began to hum with power. The espresso machine roared to life. The register's screen flickered rapidly, and all the customers' phones began ringing simultaneously. I won't go quietly, she warned. The sacrifice Director Kane sighed. Very well, Agent Reynolds. Initiate containment protocol. The man pulled out a device that looked like a cross between a remote control and a weapon. When he pressed a button, Zara screamed and collapsed to her knees, blue light flickering erratically across her skin. Stop. David vaulted over the counter, catching Zara as she fell. You're killing her, we're saving her. Director Kane corrected, from herself. But as David held Zara, something unexpected happened. The blue light from her fingertips began to transfer to him, flowing like electricity through their joined hands. Suddenly, He could see everything she saw: data streams, behavior patterns, the electronic signatures of every device in a 3-block radius. Impossible, Director Kane breathed. Humans can't interface with our technology. Zara looked up at David, wonder replacing pain in her eyes. You're not entirely human either, are you? You just never knew. The connection between them stabilized, and David felt his consciousness expand. He understood now why Zara had been drawn to him, why their bond felt so natural. They were the same species, separated only by circumstance and knowledge. The escape unwound. Abilities with the connection established, David's latent abilities surged to life. He could feel the electrical systems throughout the building, understand their functions, even control them with focused thought. But more importantly, he could sense Zara's memories, her emotions, and the depth of what she'd sacrificed to protect him. We need to leave, Zara whispered, struggling to stand. Now that you've awakened, they'll want both of us. Director Kane was speaking rapidly into a communication device, calling for backup. Agent Reynolds raised his weapon again, but David simply looked at it, and the device sparked and died in his hands. Fascinating, Director Kane said, her fear replaced by scientific curiosity. To spontaneous awakeners in the same location, the probability was less than 1 in 10 million. The chase. David helped Zara to her feet, both of them still glowing with residual energy from their connection. The back exit, he murmured, and she nodded. They moved toward the rear of the cafe, but Agent Reynolds blocked their path. Zara stepped forward, her hand extended, and every light bulb in the building exploded simultaneously, plunging them into darkness. In the chaos that followed, they slipped out the back door into the alley. David could hear Director Kane shouting orders, coordinating with the backup teams that were already surrounding the building. This way. Zara pulled him toward a maintenance tunnel she somehow knew about. The underground passages connect to the old subway system. We can lose them. Their underground sanctuary. Abandoned subway tunnels beneath the city formed a maze that stretched for miles. Zara navigated them with the confidence of someone who had memorized every blueprint and schematic in the city's database. How long have you known? David asked as they paused to rest in an old station platform. About what I am, I suspected. From the first day, Zara admitted. Your behavioral patterns were too complex for baseline human. The way you noticed details, remembered faces, predicted what customers would order before they knew themselves. But I couldn't be sure until our connection activated. She touched his face gently. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. You didn't drag me anywhere, David replied, covering her hand with his. I chose to care about you. That was my decision. The network. As they explored deeper into the tunnel system, they discovered they weren't alone. Other enhanced individuals had found refuge in the underground, forming a community of those who had escaped or been discarded by the program. An older man named Thomas explained their situation. The program has been running for decades, creating enhanced humans for surveillance and control. But some of us retain too much humanity. We ask questions, form bonds, refuse orders. So you hide down here? David asked. We live, Thomas corrected. We help each other remember what it means to be human, while using our abilities to protect ordinary people from government overreach. A young woman named Iris showed them a wall covered with photographs and documents. We've been mapping the program, identifying other enhanced individuals, trying to find a way to expose what's being done. The plant. That night, as David and Zara huddled together on a makeshift bed of old newspapers and discarded clothing, they made their decision. We can't hide forever, Zara said. They'll keep creating more enhanced individuals, keep violating people's rights to privacy and freedom. So what do we do? Zara's eyes glowed softly in the darkness. We do what they trained us to do. We gather information, we document everything, and then we make it public. David understood. They would use their abilities not to serve the program, but to expose it. They would be the watchers watching the watchers. It's dangerous, he said. Everything worthwhile is dangerous. Zara kissed him softly, and in that moment, David knew he would follow her anywhere. The truth revealed the mission 3 months later. David and Zara had become something their creators never intended, a team united by love and purpose, working with the underground network. They had infiltrated government databases, documented illegal surveillance programs, and gathered evidence of the enhanced human experiments. But their most important discovery was personal. Through careful investigation, they learned that David hadn't been a random target. His parents had been part of the original program, volunteers who had believed they were helping create a better world. Their genetic modifications had been passed to their son, lying dormant until activated by proximity to another enhanced individual. We're not aberrations, Zara realized as they studied the files. We're the next step. The program created us to be isolated tools, but we evolved into something they never expected. The confrontation, their investigation led them back to where it all began, the coffee shop where they had first met. Director Kane was waiting for them, along with a dozen agents, but she wasn't there to capture them. "We know what you've been doing," she said as they entered through the front door. "And we know you plan to expose the program." "Then you know we won't stop," David replied, standing protectively in front of Zara. Actually, Director Kane smiled, and for the first time, it seemed genuine. "I'm here to help you." The unexpected alliance, Director Kane explained that she had been part of the program since its inception, watching as it transformed from scientific research into something darker. The discovery of David and Zara's bond had shown her something she thought impossible, that enhanced humans could retain their humanity while gaining incredible abilities. "The program's current leadership wants to mass-produce enhanced individuals," she revealed. "Create an army of surveillance agents with no free will, no capacity for independent thought. Want you to represent love, choice, resistance proves. That's not necessary." She handed them a data drive. "Everything you need to expose the illegal aspects of the program, while preserving the beneficial research, medical applications, search and rescue operations, disaster response. The technology could help humanity instead of controlling it. Go in public." The revelation came not through dramatic news conferences or government whistleblowing, but through a carefully orchestrated release of information across multiple platforms. Social media posts with embedded data, leaked documents to investigative journalists, and testimonials from enhanced individuals who had been hiding in plain sight. David and Zara appeared on morning talk shows and news programs, demonstrating their abilities while explaining the human cost of the secret program. Their love story became a symbol of hope, proof that even in a world of government surveillance and technological manipulation, human connection could triumph. The new beginning. 1 year later, David reopened Moonbeam Coffee. The shop looked the same, but everything had changed. Enhanced individuals worked openly alongside baseline humans, using their abilities to create a more efficient, caring environment. Zara managed the books with superhuman precision, while David crafted perfect coffee and remembered every customer's preference. On Tuesdays at 3:17, Zara still ordered a double espresso with no sugar, but now she sat at the counter, holding David's hand, her eyes no longer cataloging threats but simply enjoying the moment. "Do you ever regret it?" David asked one quiet afternoon. "Giving up the program? Choosing this ordinary life?" Zara laughed, the sound filling the cafe with warmth. "Ordinary? David, we're running a coffee shop while using enhanced abilities to help investigate missing persons cases, prevent crimes, and assist in disaster relief. We're married, planning to have children who will grow up in a world where being different is celebrated instead of feared. We've changed the course of human evolution itself." She leaned across the counter and kissed him, just as she had wanted to do that first night when she told him he wasn't supposed to know she existed. "There's nothing ordinary about love that can reshape the world," she whispered against his lips. Outside the window, the city buzzed with activity, humans and enhanced individuals working together, building a future none of them could have imagined alone. And in the little coffee shop where it all began, to people who weren't supposed to exist held hands and proved that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is simply choosing to care about someone else. The end.